Hi, I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions. We have so many different transitions in our life, and I like to use the metaphor of triathlons. I just did 3 sprint triathlons this summer, matter of fact. And in a triathlon, first you swim. And then after you finish swimming, you go into a transition area, and then you get on your bike. And then you finish biking, and then you put your bike down and start to run. And that's a great metaphor. We have so many ideas what we think we're going to do when we're in high school, and then it changes, and then we look back on our life and wow, we had so many different things and amazing feats that we've done. And so talk about amazing. Our guest today is an incredible dancer. He's danced all over the world, literally, and also found recovery in his life, and also teaches everything from Pilates to, oh my heavens, so many different modalities, which he's going to tell us about. And it's hard to do this all in 28 minutes, so therefore we have a second show. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see that too. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Andrew Krichels.
Perfect.
Yes, yes. Well, welcome, and in one sentence, describe what you do now, and then we're going to go into where you began, where you were born, and do the whole biographical thing.
Okay, cool. Right now, I always say that people clap for me dancing for 30 years, and now I'm giving back. So now I'm doing these workshops for people who are injured or people in recovery, how to be in touch with their bodies, how to live a grounded life in a centered body.
Very good. Wow. Yes. Well, your life story is so amazing. So tell us, you were born of a German dad and a Bostonian mom, and this was you grew up in New England?
Yeah.
Okay, and it was near Tanglewood, and your dad started a dance company?
Well, no, that's pretty close, yeah. That my father was in Germany. He grew up in Germany, quite a wealthy family. They had a castle and a moat and stuff.
A castle and a moat?
Yes, they did. I could have been a prince, but now I'm the 4th son. I wouldn't have gotten a Toyota Corolla, you know. But anyway, there was a war, and he wasn't in favor of the war, so he immigrated to America, where he met my mother, who was Bostonian, but she had been a classical pianist in Paris and had come back during the war to the Berkshires in western Massachusetts. And they were a little, for the times of the day, my mother was a spinster. She was almost 30 when she got married.
Wow.
And then they just started popping out babies, and they bought this beautiful apple orchard and farm in the Berkshires right outside of Stockbridge. And that's where we were all born. And it was sort of idyllic. It was very beautiful. There was, ponies and apple trees and goats and sheep, and it was kind of lovely. And my father, he was a scientist, and he was part of these paper mills. He developed different kinds of, like watermark papers. So. The paper the Pope wrote his documents on, and he had something to do with spaceships, like the cones. I don't know, and Formica. I don't know. We should be rich, but it's not. We didn't. He didn't keep the patents, So, but anyway, so it was quite idyllic. And then he dropped dead when I was about 8 of a heart attack.
So your dad suddenly died.
Yeah.
And as a small child, you were starting to learn about dance?
Yeah, well, my father had also been a gymnast in Germany, and he was involved with Ted Shawn, who was the father of American dance. And so he was involved with creating Jacob's Pillow, which was his first major dance festival in America. So I grew up with that, and Joe Pilates was there developing Pilates, and it was, you know, I thought that was part of life. They'd all come for cocktails, and I'd see these crazy exotic people and say, "Ooh, I want some of that."
You grew up with that.
Yeah, well, they were
Amazing.
around. I go, "Wow, look at that!" But my father would go, "Dancing, good exercise," you know. But there was no way that his son was going to be a dancer. Like I could have been a lawyer who danced on the side, you know. But and my mother had to give up the piano, you know, because she had 6 children, one after the other.
6 children boy, she didn't wait.
Popped those suckers out, yeah. but we're all Catholic twins. We're very close in age. But that was sacred in our house, that she had a piano room, and she would lock herself in there for 2 or 3 hours every morning and practice. And I'd lean on the accordion doors and just listen to that music. You know, and it was a little sad. I mean, like I would have maybe liked some cocoa or a hug or something, but what I got was that real passion for art, and for that real commitment. You know, she'd always be practicing and running up to and she'd miss something and keep going. I kept thinking it was like a horse missing the fence till she got it, and then she would take off to the next.
Over and over.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And so that real commitment to art was a beautiful thing to get from her.
Yes, and then you learned that it transferred into, you became a dancer.
Well, yeah, I mean, movement was always my thing, and we were also near Tanglewood. And so as a kid, I would sneak into Tanglewood on the Great Lawn, and the Boston Symphony would be playing, and I would just dance all night long. There was always this crazy little adolescent boy dancing under the oak trees.
Just making it up and just dancing around.
Yeah, just things I had seen on TV or things I had seen, just surrendering to the music. But it was never a reality that I could do that.
But you had lessons, right?
Oh yeah, I did ballroom and took, you know, stuff like that. But it was my passion, but I was never going to be able to do that. So unfortunately, when my father died, my mother discovered a real love for alcohol. And well, my father was always around. I always tell the story to my clients now of, you know, when my father came home, there had to be an ice cold glass of Lowenbrau on his desk, and nobody was allowed in that sacred study. And I'd sneak in as a little kid and take a sip. Oh, wow! And it was like ambrosia. It was like you know, strength and masculinity and money and everything. And, you know, it didn't work out so well for me, that pursuit of alcohol, as it pursued. But my mother really, she also developed cancer right when he died. So she lingered for quite a few years, which was great for me because that was a big fear. Like if she had died, I'd be an orphan. You know, so even if she was in the hospital or away, I could stay at home and, you know, get myself to school and stuff like that. So it was very weird. It was very gothic all of a sudden.
She died when you were 18 or 19?
Yeah. But she was, from like 12 on, she was extremely
ill.
Going in and out of hospitals and stuff.
So she passed away, and then you were kind of like, okay, and you went to Europe. Yeah,
I did. Well, the house got sold pretty fast, and so.
They sold the house.
Yeah, it's those big old New England families my mother was part of, and they pruned the tree, you know. And if there's these 6 crazy ass hippie kids, well, we'll just kind of, you know, get them through school, but like they wouldn't be part of any big inheritance, you know.
Wow.
You pruned the tree, but and there was a lot of tragedy in those families too. Like it was a messy Gothic time. So I was just bumming around Europe, and I had that movement stuff in me. But I was really enjoying drugs and alcohol a lot then. But I was in Copenhagen and just walking down this little cobblestone street on an evening in Copenhagen, and I heard these drums playing. And I said, wow, that's cool. And my body started boom, boom, boom. And I looked through the window, and it was all these dancers just flying by the windows, like bodies like soaring, and, you know, I just see blurs of color. And they saw me. This wild. I had real long hair then, believe it or not, and and I was very pretty. And so they pulled me through the window, and I just started dancing with these guys. It turned out they were from Alvin Nicolai's company in New York. And so then they talked me into it, and I applied to the Boston Conservatory and got in, which is crazy. And so I went back to America and started ballet classes.
Wow, and had you done ballet before?
A little bit, not really, not really. Yeah, but I was very athletic, but I wasn't good at team sports. You know, I don't see well, but I could, you know, my body was great, and I picked up fast, and then that, you know, that was where I met my wife of the time, it was a long time ago, don't laugh, but she's wonderful and very beautiful, and they were starting, I didn't want to go to New York, which was weird for a dancer, but I got into Juilliard, which was cool, but then they started Purchase at SUNY. It was all the same faculty as Juilliard, but it was out like, you know, half an hour north of the city in White Plains in Purchase. So I went there, and that was a great experience. And Anna Sokolow was my favorite choreographer in the world, and she was teaching there. And she ended up living with Kathleen and I.
Oh, so this great choreographer lived with you guys.
And we just started this company. And then very soon after that, I got into a show in New York called The Possessed, based on Jewish folk tales, and I was pretty, as I mentioned, so I got a featured role. And
you were dancing and acting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a combo.
Yeah, and I'd been dancing professionally like 2 years, and I got really good reviews from that, because they said I was really pretty, which I was really pretty.
You're pretty, but can you dance?
Right, yeah. But I can do anything. Like, my body would just, I mean, it was like a wild pony.
Very gifted that you could do all these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that was nice. I mean, and it just took off from there, you know, and I danced with, I think, 15 different companies and shows in New York, and toward Asia and all over Europe and Greece, and, you know, all over the world. I liked the world. It was fun. And I survived on the dancer diet, you know, which is bourbon, cocaine, and cigarettes, you know, the three main food groups.
And how could, you know, with that in mind, how could you keep going and keep going? Because I always think of athletes, you know, your strict diet and not overdoing alcohol or smoke or any of that, but somehow you kept for years.
Yeah, I'm strong. I'm still strong. Like, just like some of that's genetics, but also, you know, cocaine makes you very active, and alcohol knocks you out, and cigarettes keep your weight down. You know, it was.
Wow.
It worked until it didn't. How about that?
Right.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty. You know, I thought it was pretty fancy. I thought it was pretty exotic, but it was getting more and more desperate. And it's a lot of, you know, the Sports Training Institute in New York used to have a scale of stress that sports put on your body, and rugby and. I think it was rugby and hockey were at 15, and then they started taking us guys, dancers, and they had to extend the scale to 17. The amount of damage, the amount of stress, you know, it's a 12-month season. Like, you're just going all the time.
Wow, so the stress on your body.
Oh yeah, I mean, I broke my feet so many times, I broke my legs, and but then I started having spinal trouble as well, and a lot of, you know, for catching people, that's a lot of strain on the shoulders.
I would think.
Yeah. So
yes.
I actually severed everything in my shoulder, like the long thoracic nerve, the labrum, the supraspinatus, everything.
So did you have to have a lot of operations on you? No,
I didn't have it. I healed all. They were going to fuse 7 vertebrae in my spine, and then my joke I'm tired of, but, you know, my arm was pretty much paralyzed, and I had shooting pains through my whole body from my back. But my feet were so arthritic, they built these big orthopedic shoes, and they were real clunky. I called them nun shoes, and I always said I could stand the pain, but when they started messing with my fashion sense, I got serious about healing. I'm not wearing those shoes, you know. But I started studying different things. I went to the Swedish Institute of Massage, and I studied a lot of Pilates. I did a lot of Pilates, and I was dancing with Chen in China, and starting seeing like Aikido and Ki and the idea of energy, and getting more and more into the Chinese medicine. And then as I started getting trained in these different modalities, and I was the guinea pig, the things that worked kept saying they came from China 4,000 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I started really studying that seriously and got some certifications in Chinese medical Qigong.
And in China.
And some in China and some in New York and some in Nashville. There was this wild, I loved him, this guy, he was the head of the International Medical Qigong Society, and he lived in Nashville.
Wow.
There was so many things pulling me to Nashville, it was crazy.
Yes.
And he had a heavy Southern accent, and he was a Mason, and he had a PhD in Chinese medicine.
Was he American?
Oh God, was he American? He said, "Well, you're a being of light," and I didn't even know what he meant. He said, "You're a being of light." But he was wonderful, and he was, as they say in China, left his body. But he died last year.
Oh.
But I have a lot of his books and a lot, and there's in Chinese medicine, there's a belief that your teacher can go on teaching you for a year after they've died. So I've been feeling like I've been learning a lot this year.
Wow.
You got to go on learning for sure.
Yes. So here you are. You're dancing. Your body is starting to break down, but at the same time you're learning about all these different modalities, right?
Yeah. So I was getting smarter and stupider at the same time. I was getting more and more healed and more aware of stuff, and it took more and more drugs and alcohol to keep me numb from it. And so, there was a night after every show. A lot of, especially with the stricter companies, they tuck you into the hotel at night.
Yes.
But I knew how to sneak out of a hotel, so I learned that young. And so, I was somewhere, and I was shooting pool in this Hustler bar, and it was like 3 a.m. And over the pool table was this smudgy old mirror, and with dancers, the mirror is not about ego, it's your teacher. Like you can see, what is the line? And you see, is that the right line? Is my head right? And it's your teacher. Do we look right? What's it? So, and I saw in the mirror myself, and it was my true self. And there was still mascara smudged under my eyes, and my hair was getting thin and kind of plastered back, and these fake leather pants that were kind of running, and there was, like a cigarette in my hand and a bottle of scotch on the pool table. And I said, "That's me."
Wow.
And it was like a click. It was like, this is not a game. That's who I am.
That's what.
Yeah. And I was like probably 40 or 41 at that point, which is getting up there for a dancer anyway. But the next morning I went to an AA meeting, and I never have, it's been 33 years. And
I've been clean and sober for 33 years. And that was the big aha moment. Look at me. Look like this, and this is me.
Yeah,
what am I going to...
This is my life, yeah. My best friend in New York in Anna's company had tried taking me to AA meetings a few times before, and they didn't even serve drinks there. So I'd have to have I'd have to have 2 or 3 glasses of wine to get through it. And that was another thing. I must say, just before that, he had died of AIDS. Oh. And it just broke my heart, that he was like my seeing eye dog through life. And to live in a world without Stuart and to be that person was like, no, that's not right. It was almost like I had lost so many friends in that time that it was almost like, I hate to use the responsibility, but that's what it was. I'm going to live, and I'm going to live a meaningful life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So because of that, you joined AA, you became part of the recovery group,
yeah.
Right? But you had all this, you were gaining all this knowledge psychologically, and also this knowledge to heal your body after all the work you've put it through as a dancer.
Yeah.
Right.
And one thing I teach today is to notice how you feel. And I was somewhere teaching, and it was a strict Pilates class. Yeah, I've been doing Pilates my whole life. And it really does, I don't do all the, some of the stuff today is so gimmicky, but it really was really grounding and solid and correcting the frame. And I was teaching a Pilates class somewhere, and afterwards the whole class went into the hot tub, and we were talking, and I just realized my body felt good. And I was connected, and the people were really, really, really happy that they had been centered and grounded, and they paid me a decent amount of money, And I said, wait a minute, this feels good. So that was like the first little click of that maybe just sharing what my body's gone through with other people might be a avenue.
Wow.
And then I was coming here a lot. I was with the Leonard Bernstein Center, coming down to Nashville, and Donna Rizzo and I started the Tennessee Dance Theater, which was a really cool thing, but it was trying to do modern dance in I think I once won an award here in Tennessee for being the best dancer in the state. And
wow.
Unfortunately, my mouth is an entity. And I said, isn't that like being the best pork chop in Israel? You know, like, like who really wants a dancer in Tennessee? That was in the old days. It's changed a lot
yes.
lately. But it was hard. We had a lot of fun, but yeah, we couldn't get arrested here. We took the Nashville company to Paris and to New York, and we got great reviews there, but we couldn't get anything going here. So I kept moving more and more into this modality of what does movement do if it's not performance, if it's not, no matter how deep with Anna or the dance theater or anything, how deep it's pretty much. You're in a dark room with all the lights on you and everybody's looking at you,
Right.
Like it's like a performance, like we're doing that now. But what could movement do?
To heal.
To heal, yeah.
Not just but spread it out to other people.
Yeah.
And you said 20 years ago you talked to Lee McCormick, who owned the ranch, which is a recovery place outside of Nashville.
Yeah.
And he said he invited you. Well, why don't you take all this stuff and come to this recovery place?
Yeah, it was just like almost just a little idea. I had gone out to Naropa. I mean, I had all my degrees.
Naropa University is a very, in Boulder, is, well, how would you describe it?
It's a
avant-garde, more?
It's based in Buddhist principles. And, after we grew up, I left that part out, arch Catholic. I mean, my father did the stuff for the Pope. I have a little document at home that I go to heaven when I die. Like we were like super Catholic.
Yes.
I wasn't going to get into too much religion after that. Whoa, but at Naropa, the Buddhist stuff was just more about. It was called authentic leadership, and I just took all the different things. It was actually interesting. I was flying out there, and it was a couple of years, and. I would always do a warm-up like I did in Mexico. I'd always do a warm-up for everybody in the morning and get them moving. And it was a terrible snowstorm. And I called the guy and said, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. He said, you have to make it. And I was in Minneapolis, and it was a 12-hour delay to the next plane. And I'm a little bit active, hyper energetic, in case you hadn't noticed. And but I had nothing to do. I sat in the corner of this airport. There was a bathroom and a vending machine for 12 hours. And I just wrote all these different exercises and how they'd work together and what would happen. And that turned out to be my thesis for graduating from that program.
Amazing. Boy, talking about turning something lemons into lemonade.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so, so then I was coming back and I called Lee McCormick, who I'd met, and he said, come try that at the ranch. And I did, and it went very well. It was 60 guys, and they gave them these questionnaires about how it went, because I'd never done it, and they all liked it a lot, but everyone said it was so much fun. And I said, I'm a great artiste. What is this fun you speak of? But then I got thinking, wow, to have some joy. And so that's turned into one of the prime goals of each workshop, is to find that joy in your body and in your life.
Yes, to find the joy. And so right now you're doing occasional workshops for people, the public, but you're also teaching at the Y and going to various recovery businesses, and they hire you to help with, and you have coined the phrase, what are you calling your particular type of therapy that you've invented?
I call it experiential movement therapy.
Experiential movement therapy.
And my organization is called Creative Action, because for so many of the groups I was in about training, it was so much talking. And I said, no, we're actually going to do stuff. we're going
to move.
Yeah, we're going to move and create stuff, and yeah, and so so my organization is called Creative Action, and the work is called Experiential Movement Therapy, and I do have that trademark now, and now we're talking about how to codify it so I could train some other people to do it.
Yes, because with all that knowledge, if you leave to the next planet, it's gone.
Yeah.
So how nice if you could, to teach others and mentor other people.
And it'd be very important that they don't just mimic what I do, but to learn the tools and then make it their own. What did you have to do? Leonard Bernstein used to have these different things we were called teaching artists, and he had different things that artists would do to teach, and one of it was to scout the territory and then guide other people through it. So I feel if my life, if the craziness of my life had one thing, I did scout a whole lot of territory.
That's a great idea. The scouting, I did this, and because you were in, you had your wild and crazy days, and then you got recovery and got sober, you can help people who have their wild and crazy days and say, hey, I've been through it and this has helped me.
Yeah, right, and not being judgmental of them. To say, and Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, very seldomly uses the word healed. He uses the word whole. He says in his book, every human being is a work of art put together with all the pieces available. And I love that I'm a tapestry of all those experiences. And I'm not like, ooh, now I'm like this healed, sober guru. It's like, wow, I'm all those things. I'm that crazy wild kid riding his bicycle down Fifth Avenue at 3 in the morning. I'm all, and so when the clients, it's not like, oh, you're bad, you're acting out. It's like, oh yeah, I have that piece in me too.
Right, and you can identify with that. So I know that there's a whole other piece of this, and on the second show, we're going to be explaining more detail on what is this therapy that it's taken him a lifetime to put together, and it's pretty amazing. And we just have another minute or so. What would you like to tell people about you? What would you like them to know?
You know what, when you said that, I hadn't prepared that, but I got thinking that I truly am happy.
Yay!
I truly am a happy human being. And looking back at times in my life, if I could ever, my lovely ex-wife does Isadora Duncan's work. She inherited all that. Wow. We were just in Sweden together, and I said, what if 30 years ago we could say, this is where we ended up? Yeah,
wow, from getting divorced and now having joy together and visiting.
And I have my new partner, of course, who I love very much, but not going backwards, but how that it really does, don't leave before it's over. When you're going through the deep, dark woods, keep moving.
Right, don't leave.
Don't sit down right there. Yeah, right.
Wow. All right. Well, Andrew, thank you very much for being on the show, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you.
And this is, Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Thanks.